Long ago, in the ancient land of Egypt, a mighty Pharaoh ruled with an iron fist. He was a powerful king, and his word was law. The Pharaoh's people lived well, enjoying the fruits of their labor and the prosperity of the land. But not everyone in Egypt was happy. A group of people called the Israelites were forced to work as slaves, enduring harsh conditions and relentless toil. They toiled in the hot sun, building great cities and monuments for the Pharaoh, their sweat and blood becoming the foundation of Egypt's grandeur. The Israelites were treated cruelly, with taskmasters overseeing their every move, ready to punish them at the slightest mistake. They were given a little food and no rest, their bodies pushed to the brink of exhaustion day after day. Their lives were filled with hardship and despair, a never-ending cycle of suffering that seemed impossible to escape. They longed for freedom, dreaming of a day when they could live without chains, but saw no way out of their misery. Their cries for help seemed to go unanswered, lost in the vastness of their suffering, echoing in the silence of the desert. Every day they prayed to their God, a God they believed in but could not see, hoping for a miracle. They prayed for deliverance, for a savior to lead them out of their chains and into a brighter future, a future where they could live in peace and prosperity. Little did they know their prayers were about to be answered and their lives would change forever. In the heart of the Pharaoh's palace, a baby boy was born. He was named Moses, and unbeknownst to all, he was destined to change the course of history. Raised as the adopted grandson of the Pharaoh, Moses lived a life of privilege and luxury. He was educated in the finest schools and trained in the art of war. He learned the ways of the Egyptians, mastering their language, culture, and traditions. Yet despite his privileged upbringing, Moses could not ignore the suffering of his people. The cries of the Hebrew slaves echoed in his ears, haunting his thoughts. He witnessed their pain, heard their cries, and felt a profound sense of injustice. The sight of their suffering stirred something deep within him. He knew in his heart that he was different. He felt a growing sense of unease and a calling that he could not yet understand. He did not belong to the world of pharaohs and palaces. The opulence and grandeur of the royal court felt increasingly alien to him. He belonged to the Israelites, his true people. The bond he felt with them grew stronger each day. One day Moses saw an Egyptian guard beating an Israelite slave. The sight filled him with a righteous fury. His heart filled with rage, and he struck down the guard. In that moment he chose to stand against the oppression. Fearing for his life, Moses fled Egypt and sought refuge in the land of Midian. There he would begin a new chapter, far from the life he once knew. In Midian, Moses found peace and solace. The tranquil life of a shepherd offered him a refuge from his past, a place where he could find a sense of belonging and purpose. He married, had a family, and lived a simple life as a shepherd. His days were filled with the laughter of his children and the warmth of his wife's embrace, a stark contrast to the turmoil he had once known. But his destiny was far from over. Deep within, Moses felt a stirring, an unspoken call that hinted at a greater purpose awaiting him. One day, while tending his flock, Moses came across an astonishing sight, a bush engulfed in flames, yet not consumed by the fire. The sight was both mesmerizing and terrifying, a clear sign that something extraordinary was unfolding. As he approached the burning bush, a voice boomed out, calling his name, "Moses, Moses." The voice was powerful, resonating with authority and compassion. It was the voice of God, speaking to him from the midst of the flames. The divine presence was unmistakable, filling Moses with awe and reverence. God told Moses of his plan to return to Egypt and free his people from slavery. Moses was afraid. The enormity of the task ahead seemed insurmountable, and fear gripped his heart. He doubted his ability to confront the mighty Pharaoh and lead his people to freedom. The weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, and he questioned his own worthiness and strength.
Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? His voice trembled with uncertainty, reflecting the inner turmoil he felt.
God reassured him, offering words of comfort and encouragement.
I will be with you. These simple yet profound words carried a promise of divine support and guidance.
And with those words, Moses' fear turned to determination. The assurance of God's presence gave him the strength to face the challenges ahead. He knew then that he could not ignore this divine call. The path before him was clear, and with newfound resolve, Moses prepared to embark on the journey that would change the course of history. Armed with God's power and a heart full of courage, Moses returned to Egypt. He stood before the Pharaoh, the very man who had once been like a father to him, and delivered God's message.
Let my people go.
The Pharaoh scoffed at Moses' words.
Who is this God that I should obey him?
He refused to release the Israelites, believing himself to be more powerful than any god. Moses, accompanied by his brother Aaron, warned the Pharaoh of terrible consequences if he did not comply.
God will send plagues upon your land, plagues of unimaginable suffering.
Still, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. He refused to listen, convinced of his own invincibility, and so began a battle of wills, a clash between the might of the Pharaoh and the power of God. True to Moses' words, God unleashed a series of devastating plagues upon Egypt. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood. Frogs swarmed the land, invading homes and temples. Gnats and flies filled the air, making life unbearable. Livestock died, boils covered the people's skin, and hailstorms destroyed crops. Locusts descended upon Egypt, devouring every green plant in sight. Darkness enveloped the land, a tangible darkness that filled the Egyptians with terror. With each plague, the Pharaoh's resolve seemed to waver. He pleaded with Moses to intercede with God, promising to free the Israelites if only the suffering would end. Yet, as soon as the plague subsided, Pharaoh's heart hardened once more. He broke his promises, refusing to release the Israelites. Finally, God unleashed the most devastating plague of all. He sent the angel of death to pass over Egypt, taking the lives of every firstborn son. But the Israelites were spared. God instructed them to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes. That night, a wave of grief swept over Egypt as the cries of mourning filled the air. Even the Pharaoh's own son was not spared. Overwhelmed with grief and finally understanding the true extent of God's power, the Pharaoh relented.
Go, leave this land and take your people with you.
And so, after centuries of slavery, the Israelites were finally free. Under the cover of darkness, the Israelites, led by Moses, fled Egypt. They carried their meager belongings on their backs, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. They had escaped from slavery, but their journey to freedom was far from over. As the sun rose, the Pharaoh, struck by a sudden wave of regret and anger, gathered his army and set off in pursuit. The Israelites, trapped between the pursuing Egyptians and the Red Sea, cried out in fear.
Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today.
With a mighty wind, God parted the waters of the Red Sea, creating a dry path for the Israelites to cross. They walked through the sea as if on dry land, the walls of water towering over them on either side. Section 8. The Wilderness Trials, a Test of Faith. The Israelites' journey through the wilderness was long and arduous. They faced scorching deserts, a lack of food and water, and the constant threat of attack. There were times when they despaired, questioning their faith and longing for the comforts of Egypt. But God was with them, providing for their needs and guiding their path. He sent manna from heaven to feed them and water from rocks to quench their thirst. He led them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. During their journey, God revealed his laws to Moses on Mount Sinai. The 10 Commandments, inscribed on stone tablets, became the foundation of their faith and a guide for their lives. Section 9. A new home beckons, the promised land awaits. After 40 years of wandering, the Israelites finally reached the border of Canaan, the land God had promised them. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, a land of abundance and opportunity. Their journey had been long and difficult, filled with trials and tribulations, but they had emerged from their ordeal stronger, their faith tested and refined. They had learned the true meaning of freedom and the importance of trusting in God's plan. The Exodus, their journey from slavery to freedom, became a defining moment in their history, a testament to their resilience and an enduring symbol of hope for generations to come. Section 10. Lessons from the Exodus, a legacy of hope and freedom. The story of the Exodus is not just an ancient tale, it is a timeless message of hope and resilience. It teaches us that even in the darkest of times, even when faced with insurmountable odds, we must never give up hope. The Israelites' journey reminds us that freedom is not free. It comes at a cost, often requiring sacrifice, perseverance, and unwavering faith. It teaches us that we are not alone in our struggles. Just as God was with the Israelites, guiding and protecting them, so too is He with us, offering strength and solace in times of need. Section 11. Conclusion: the enduring power of faith and resilience. The Exodus is a story that continues to inspire and uplift people all over the world. It is a story about the power of faith to overcome adversity, the importance of fighting for what is right, and the enduring human spirit that refuses to be broken. It is a story that reminds us that even in the face of oppression, hope can bloom, chains can be broken, and freedom, though hard won, is a prize worth fighting for. The journey may be long, the road may be rough, but with faith as our guide and resilience as our compass, we too can overcome any obstacle and reach the promised land of our dreams.